Hello. I just wanted to provide a little introduction to my sermon. First off, I do apologize for the audio quality. To get a good camera angle, I needed to put the camera on the audio cart, which was really close to the projector, and so there's a lot of audio hum from the projector, so I do apologize. I tried to clean it up as much as possible, but there's only so much I could do. Another little technical point, my mom isn't very familiar with the use of an iPhone, and so she wasn't quite sure if she had hit the record button or not, so you might hear that in the beginning. But as far as the content goes, I was looking at the book of Ecclesiastes, and this is one of my favorite books of the Bible, and I wanted to present it for a UU audience. And it's kind of funny, a couple members of the congregation I presented at, after I got done, we're having coffee and that, they came up to me and said that they had individually read the book of Ecclesiastes before the sermon, and they told me, it's really good. And I had to laugh, and I said, yeah, it's really good. So I hope that my presentation of this book was helpful for some of my UU friends here, and I hope I did justice to the theology of it. I was thinking about this class, the congregation, what I needed to say, leave some room for spirit. But all in all, I was pretty happy with how things turned out. So I hope you enjoy it as well. I look forward to any comments and feedback that you might have. And thank you for a wonderful semester. It's been really good working with you all. And I wish you all the best going forward in your ministry and in your education. And happy holidays and be well. So thank you.
So 2,500 years ago, Koholeth, or the teacher, writing as the great King Solomon penned the book of Ecclesiastes, a volume that 20th century author Thomas Wolfe described in the following words. Of all that I have seen or learned, that book seems to me the noblest, the wisest, and the most powerful expression of man's life upon this earth, and also the highest flower of poetry, eloquence, and truth. I am not given to dogmatic judgments in the matter of literary creation, but if I had to make one, I could say that Ecclesiastes is the greatest single piece of writing I have ever known, and the wisdom expressed in it the most lasting and profound.
Sorry, it's tiny with the red lights
While the exact date and authorship of this work is uncertain, the themes and observations contained within remind its readers that across millennia, there is nothing new under the sun, and the concerns of the ancients are the same as ours in the 21st century. The New International Version of the Bible has chapters and sections heading it serves bullet points for the topics Koholeth addresses, such as everything is meaningless, wisdom is meaningless, pleasures are meaningless, wisdom and folly are meaningless, toil is meaningless. And that's just the first two chapters. Koholeth begins with the immortal words, vanity of vanities, all is vanity. And through 12 chapters, examines the absurdity, inconsistencies, uncertainty, and bewildering nature of a life that defies simple explanation. To the ancient Hebrews, the word translated as vanity, Abel, was better understood as breath or vapor. Thus, vanity of vanities is a metaphor for the things that cannot be held, made sense of, or even understood. Is there any better way to describe life? From this opening statement of futility, the teacher describes his efforts to make sense of this life. He looked towards wisdom, madness, and folly, only to conclude that nothing is reliable and that he was chasing after the wind. He next turned his attention towards pleasure and described the great building projects, including houses, gardens, parks, and vineyards. He wrote of his riches, his slaves, herds, flocks, and all the delights of the man's heart that he was able to amass. And when he looked at all that his hands had done, he saw it all to be meaningless. Nothing was actually gained for all of his toil. Despite his wisdom and riches, he became bitter and full of despair. He saw that for all of his striving, he was no closer to anything that could be considered meaning. He wrote, "What do mortals get for all the toil and strain with which they toil under the sun? For all their days are full of pain, and their work is a vexation. Even at night their minds do not rest. This is also vanity." And he concludes, "There is nothing better for mortals than to eat and drink and find enjoyment in their toil. This also I saw is from the hand of God, for apart from him, who can eat or who can have enjoyment?" What I find fascinating in all of this is that the wise teacher was able to conclude something that in antiquity that is echoed in Jean-Paul Sartre's famous phrase, "Existence precedes essence." In this, Sartre was getting to the heart of what it is to be human, namely, human beings, through the very fact of our existence, we create our own values and bring meaning to our individual lives. Thus, there is no inherent meaning in human life. It is on us to discover that for ourselves. And I'm reminded of that classic scene from the Billy Crystal movie, City Slickers, where the bedraggled and harried professional Mitch, played by Billy Crystal, asks the old cowboy Curly what the meaning of life is. Curly says, "Just one thing. Once you figure it out, you stick to that. Everything else don't mean." And I think that Quaholith and Curly would have gotten along just fine. But what of all of this frantic human yearning that's inside of us? Why all of this continued chasing after the things that the teacher, 2,500 years ago, concluded to be utterly meaningless? How much do we need to be rich? How long must we run before we see that the sky is the same at the end as it was where we started? Why do we create lives that require us to take a vacation from them? Why do we work jobs that bring us even farther from that one thing that Curly advocated for? Ultimately, I think we need to reflect on whose one thing we're actually living for. So, we are to eat and drink and find enjoyment in our toil, not in the products of our effort. It is our lot to labor and to be frustrated by the seeming injustice of the rewards and calamities of this life being distributed haphazardly both to the wicked and the righteous. We are unique among creation, having a sense of both the past and the future. But we can't even begin to comprehend what the universe has done throughout time, or where our tiny, subjective outpost is, truly located in the vast expanse of eternity that is all around us. Instead, we are locked in a world that is beset on all sides by the wickedness, greed, envy, and malice that is deep inside the heart of our species, and an awareness of those same forces that are inside each of us as individuals. The teacher stated that he found the dead to be more fortunate than the living, and the not living fortunate still, because they have not seen the evil that is done in this world. Despite the gift, or some may say curse, of an awareness of time and of what is right and wrong, the teacher remarks that in his heart, he thinks that all of this is just a way for the Holy One to remind us that we are but animals, and that our fate is the same as theirs. As one dies, so does the other, and we all go to the the same place, from dust and back again, with no guarantee of where our spirit ends up. Now your ears might perk up at that last point. No guarantee of where our spirit ends up. The teacher was expressing skepticism of an afterlife, a position that removed the importance of death as understood by the Egyptians and demonstrated the evolution of theology that can be witnessed throughout the Bible if we place things in their proper historical context. So, with no guarantee of going to the good place, in reward for all of our striving, Koheleth again and again implored his reader to simply enjoy their work, for no one can bring them to see what will be after they depart. A person may have all the riches and honors of this world, but if it isn't in their heart to enjoy them, it's all vanity. A person may have 100 children, limitless prosperity. They may live 1,000 years twice over. But if there is no joy in having a quiet handful rather than 2 handfuls of toil, it's simply chasing after the wind, because we all end up in that same place. Ultimately, the teacher states, the race is not to the swift, or the battle to the strong, nor does food come to the wise, wealth to the brilliant, or favor to the learned. But time and chance happen to them all. Now, I don't read Ecclesiastes as a testament advocating a surrender to the absurdities of life. Instead, I read it as a reminder of keeping our focus on what is truly important to each of us. The teacher writes, "This only I have found. God created man upright, but they have gone in search of many schemes. So eat, drink, and be merry, and find joy in the process and not in the product of our labors." Koheleth would not have us worry about the afterlife, for, in his understanding, our final resting place is no different than that of the beasts of the field and the birds in the sky. But we must always remember that which is meaningless, in contrast to that which truly gives us joy. We must always square our actions by what we each hold sacred. In the final chapter, the teacher states, "Remember your Creator in the days of your youth, before the days of trouble come. Remember him, before the silver cord is severed, and the golden bowl is broken, and the dust returns to the ground where it came from, and the spirit returns to the God who gave it. All is vanity." In a world that is devoid of inherent meaning, we could do worse than to orient ourselves towards that which we each hold sacred and to simply find joy in the simple things of life. We can spend all of our days frantically looking and chase after money, or we can reflect on a recent Princeton study that found that after an annual income of $75,000, most people report that there was no true increase in happiness with any further earnings from the money itself. Security? Perhaps. Happiness? Not so much. In fact, if a person makes $32,400 a year, less than half of that $75,000 threshold, they are considered to be in the top 1% of the entire world. Vanity of vanities indeed. And so I ask you to consider where your happiness is truly found. on what your one thing might be, what your toil is leading towards, and to be mindful of the times when you are chasing after the wind. For indeed, there is a time for everything and a season for every activity under the banner of heaven, and there is always room to embrace joy amidst all insanity.